Welcome back to another video. I finally got Jim here like I promised you for the last 6 months, it feels like. He's just returned from another trip away, been touring around France again and all over the continent, but he's back for the Grand Prix 2 days before it starts. He's made it here. So we've got a load of questions for Jim. Let's get straight into it. Right, so first question, we're just going to get straight into it on this one. This one comes from Left-Handed Treaded. Nicest sounding TT bike, past or present? And it doesn't have to, not Trevor Marshall bike, I just think
I see, yeah.
Any
Okay,
TT
yeah.
bike.
Yeah, okay. Well, okay, I know it's not answered the question, but can I say, first of all, thank you very much for asking me to come along.
Yeah, no,
It's a real pleasure to be part of this, because this little thing you've created here is amazing. So
it's a little bit fun.
it's nice that you're getting the message out there about what the Travelling Marshall job's all about. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Cheers,
for
Jim. No, thanks.
Best sounding TT bike? Well, yeah, good question. Let me take a think. I wasn't expecting that. I thought there'd be questions about marshalling, but
There's some comments.
all right, okay. I always thought that the RC45
Yeah.
was a really great sounding bike, and you stand at the Sulby Bridge and listening to the bikes screaming down the straight. And the RC45 was VFR, RC30, any V4 Honda
V4s.
was really superb.
I like them,
Yeah,
but I always thought they sounded a bit flat.
yeah, I know what you're saying.
It's like, I always thought, it's the nicest sounding and like most memorable. Like, 'cause when I think nicest sounding, I don't think that. I just think of like, what do I think of when I think of something really memorable?
Yeah.
It's those Rotary Nortons. for
Okay.
me.
Oh yeah, Richard Norton's. Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
that noise.
The Honda V4 is up there, but I have to say you'd have to go back to the old two-stroke days for me. The old four-cylinder Suzuki's particularly,
Yeah.
and the RG500s.
Before my time, Jim.
That was something else. My dad had a long play record from the 1976 senior TT
Yeah.
that John Williams was leading until he broke down, ran out of fuel on the last lap, and there was Peter Neal was doing the commentary. And there was a little soundbite of John Williams going through the bottom of Bray Hill on this RG500,
Yeah.
and it's just an absolutely tremendous sound.
It's what sort of like resonates with you, though, isn't it?
Oh, it's just
personally?
unbelievable.
And how you
It's just
link
great
up the
memories.
memory and stuff.
But when I was away, you mentioned I was away. When I was away recently, I was sat next to my brother in the Kings Norton Bike Club of all places,
Yeah.
and he had a text on his phone,
Yeah.
and his text alert was that
It's the
soundbite
bike.
of John Williams. So he's
Yeah.
now sent it me, so it's now my text alert as well.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good. Like for me, like I remember as a kid, and then she used to go from mum and dad's at Big Arrow up to the crossroads and just used to watch them.
Yes.
And you had enough time for hearing the radio commentary saying, right, first bikes are on the road.
Yeah.
Like on a practice night.
Yeah.
Enough time to pedal up there and go
Yeah.
back and see it. And
Yeah.
I always remember hearing, everyone was telling me about this new bike that come from New Zealand.
Oh, the
This
Britain.
guy- Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about it. I'd be like 11, 12,
Yes.
94, 93, 94,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But you used to be able to
Yeah.
hear it all the way from Cronkabody, coming
Yeah.
all the way through.
Yeah.
And it was just...
Yeah, it was an amazing thing, and there's I think of Nick Jeffries winning that race.
Yeah.
Sadly, Mark Farmer followed Mark Farmer the night before the accident,
Right.
and I followed him through. He overtook me just coming into Glentrammon,
Yeah.
and then as he accelerated out of Glentrammon, he just opened the Britain up, and he just did a humongous wheelie. The thing was
all that
absolutely.
talk.
And when you immediately mentioned Britain, then the snapshot in my mind
Yeah.
is Mark Farmer coming out of Glentrammon, because I'll never forget that moment. That was something else. But I think you're right. It's all about generations. Because if you ask my dad the same question, he'd say Hailwood on the Honda,
Yeah.
no question,
Yeah.
or Agostini on the MV Augusta.
Yeah.
And I remember when they first talked about riding a MV Augusta back in the classic races here. My dad said, "That's it, I'm booking my boat home."
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much to see it; it was just to hear that sound again.
Yeah.
It was tremendous.
Yeah. Brings it all back.
Yeah.
Right. Next one. Question here from Liam Wilson. What's your favourite section of the road around the TT course? Not like a marshalling section, but as in a few bends that you enjoy every time you go around it.
Okay. What great questions.
Yeah, some great ones on here.
superb. Yeah, I like Balagary. That's always
Many people say that.
Yeah, it's always a great thrill to get through there. But I suppose more what the part of the course that I really come to love is the bit. I'm going back to Glen Trammer now, past the K-Tree, and through Sky Hill, and Pinfold Cottage, Gardeners Lane. I mean that's a whole sequence of corners, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think if especially on the blades, well, it's just something else.
Yeah.
Once you have a Glen Alden Bridge, you get a little jump there and into Gardeners Lane, and if that as a motorcyclist, if that doesn't excite you, I don't think you've got no hope. I think it just makes you feel so alive. It's just doesn't matter how many times you've done it, it's such a thrill.
Interesting you choose that section that's like really fast, really bumpy.
Oh, it's just something else. It's just amazing.
When people say to me, what's your favourite bits, I think of, and it shouldn't really, but it's not necessarily the slow bits, it's the smooth parts. So I love now, once you come out of May Hill, up through White Gates, Stella Maris. So from there, I used to hate that section. When I White Gates all the way to the Gooseneck, I love all that.
It is,
Tower Bends now, Waterworks, it's so nice.
It's made a huge difference.
You just feel like you're just floating
Stella Maris.
through its stripes. Love it through there. But there's loads of bits I like.
Yeah, I always think I did slightly better over the mountain as a rider than the lower part of the course. Yeah. And I think I could probably hold my own better over the fast sweeping corners.
I was the opposite. I was better on the bottom bit.
The 33rd milestone, I always loved that part of the course. It just reminded me of riding through North Wales with my mates when I was a lad on my 250 Yamaha. It's the same sort of thing. They're all. But it doesn't. It's not something that stays the same, is it?
No, that's it. That's exactly it. It changes all the time.
Yeah. You fall in and out of love with particular parts of the course, depending on how you're riding
and the bikes as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Flat Out in Top says, really enjoying the channel, excellent content.
Yeah.
Do you think there should be a return of the production or Superstock 600 race now that there's 2 races for each capacity class at the meeting? So a lot of money now goes into a super sport bike, and it's totally out of the reach of a privateer to ever hope to compete. So do you think there should be a more stock-based class?
Yeah. Another really good question.
It's a wide one, this though.
I rode production bikes mainly. I rode in the production TT, and I actually liked the formula for that, and I understand why it all went pear-shaped when Phil Mellor had his accident in 1989, wasn't it, on that big Suzuki GSXR 1100, and I can understand why the production race dropped out of favour, but what do you think? I think the modern 600s might stand up to it fairly well.
Yeah, I think they would, but it's how you police it as well.
This
is the problem. If you just say, because what's going to happen is if you go, right, you can have a modern production 600.
Yes.
So basically an R6, CBR 600.
Yeah.
Kawasaki, technically 636, but then do you open that to the Triumph Triple or the Ducati Twin? Otherwise you're going to, and all that's going to happen is if you make them completely stock, by the nature of it, because they're not being manipulated to be even. Eventually they'll work out that the R6 is the quickest bike, and then everyone will be on one. That's the only slight problem with it. But
I mean, that is what tended to happen with the old production races, really, wasn't it?
Because if you don't allow the slower bikes a performance gain somewhere to bring them up to a level playing field, everyone's gravitating to one bike. That's the only thing.
You just reminded me there of people like Jeff Johnson riding the old Honda. Again, maybe a little bit before your time, but Jeff Johnson used to ride a VF1000 V4 in the production races, and there was no way he was ever going to get a look in. But as a contracted Honda rider, that's what he was obligated to ride. But I always liked the idea of road bikes on a road course. That always seemed to make a lot of sense to me, and I can imagine the appeal to that from a manufacturer's point of view. I mean, there is no better accolade, is there, than if you're winning a TT race on. I know the super stock bikes are, in theory, sort of road based, but the question was referring to people throwing an absolute fortune at them to get them to perform.
Exactly.
And if you could, I guess, if you could find a way of controlling the cost to make it a more level playing field. It's that would be a good thing, but yeah, coming back to policing, it's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the bit where it makes it. It's like in theory it sounds great, but to actually put into practice is a tough one.
But yeah, to answer the question, I like the idea of road bikes on a road course, but
Next question from Manx 1569, specific to Jim.
Yeah. Does
he follow who is winning whilst the racing is on? And do you feel you're missing out on watching the racing because you're doing the TM role?
I do my best to follow.
Yeah, I try to.
I'm a bit of an anorak when it comes to watching the racing, because I'm still one of these people who tick the riders off as they go past.
Yeah, with the program.
And that's quite useful from a marshalling point of view, because if you get asked to do an observation, you can say, well, actually, I know they're all on trackers now, but you can still occasionally point out that actually so and so's already gone past, or he's not out there or whatever. So it does give you an overview of what's going on. And I always try and there's like a little table in the program where you can record first. I don't normally get as far as recording first, second, and third. Yeah. But I think that makes the whole race a lot more engaging. Yeah. And if you don't do that, the race just becomes just like watching a bit of a practice session. Yeah. You don't actually know who's in the lead.
No, you don't know who's coming next.
That's right.
It's just like a blur going past.
So I do try and do that, and I enjoy doing that. And you know, when you get called out to an incident on lap 3, you're all up to date. And then, then the incident's dealt with, and you've got absolutely no idea what's going on, or you don't know who's won or anything.
So it was 2019, last year before we had COVID, and it was that one where Hickey broke lap record. We had that perfect week of weather, and it was just faster. That
unbelievable
race, and you had Dean and Hickey going out in that last race, and there was like nothing between them.
Yeah.
And I think I was in Ramsey, and I went to Incident at Whitegates on the last lap, and then they'd all come through me, and we got to about number in the 20s.
Yes.
And I remember it was Phil Crow crashed at Whitegates,
right?
So I had to zip up there. And by the time I got there, I started dealing with it. The boys are well over the mountain, finishing, and I missed the whole finale of this amazing senior race. But and if that happens on lap 3,
so at the leaders past you. Yeah. When you that's okay. You lost track of the race.
Yeah, the worst case scenario. I was just listening to it as they were going through Ramsey and working their way off, and then obviously the next thing is we're waiting for the sector times at the bungalow, and next thing it's like Mike 5, Whitegates, you know, you miss it, but that's the only time you miss it, really, isn't it?
The worst case scenario, of course, is when you get a call to attend an incident just before the leaders come round in a race like that.
Then you don't care.
They're going to be right on your tail.
Get on it. Hi Jim, this is from Lawrence Higgins.
Right,
Yeah? Yep. Hi Jim, what would be your favourite places to watch the TT if you were just a spectator? And thanks again to you and the other TMs for doing a great job.
Okay, if it's just for spectating, then I like to go to the K-Tree. Yeah. I like to go to places where you can access the course. Yeah. I like to go to places where you can have a bite to eat and a drink maybe. Yeah. And but I think if people ask me that question, I always say to go to somewhere really spectacular like Gorsley. Yeah. And you can get in and out, and the speed of the bikes through there. When I went I had a birthday, and I asked for the night off, and I got the night off. I forget what it was, maybe my 50th, I can't remember. And
rings a bell.
And I went to Gorsley to spectate. I anticipated the speed of the bikes, but it was the angle of lean. Yeah. When you see Michael and Peter going through the air,
deck, haven't they?
It's like unbelievable. It just totally takes your breath away. Yeah. So I'm always a little bit puzzled why people go to the. I know the Quarter Bridge is easy access. But as an example, that's a slow corner. You might walk away from there thinking, well, what's it all about? But if you go to a corner like Gorsley, it's just mind-boggling. The courage and commitment of the riders, a corner like that, unbelievable. Yeah,
I say when I used to watch, so up until 8 years ago, I'd watch every session, and race days wasn't practical, but for at least one practice session, and I'd always make it about 3 or 4 nights in, so the boys were up to decent speed. Bottom of Bagaro. Okay. And I know that's become a really popular spot in the last 10 years.
Yeah. Before the dip or after the dip, because you used to be able to watch them after the dip.
Yeah, it's before the dip. So you're just before the bridge, and it's just because obviously they're so close to you, they're so fast, but because you're in like this natural sort of dip in the road, and there's the wall there and the bridge, and it all reverberates, and it's just like you feel it through you as much as you see it. And I've stand there And we've raced through that, and I'll race
Yeah.
through it at Grand Prix, not the
Yeah.
same speed, obviously,
Yeah.
like when I was racing.
Yeah.
And then the following year, I'll go and watch the TT there,
Yeah.
and I watched the first 20 come through. I was like, I don't like this. I don't like it. I can't. It's just it's uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
It's like
No,
just,
I know
and
exactly that
when
feeling.
once you get down to like number 30s, 40s, I'm like, oh, this is a nicer pace
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
I'm okay with
Yeah,
this. And
yeah.
then the leaders come through again. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, it's
Yeah.
shocking.
Yeah.
It actually shocks
No,
you.
yeah, that's the word for it. Well, going back to that Gorse Lee thing, I didn't watch
Yeah.
that whole entire practice there because I hadn't got the stomach for it.
Yeah.
And
You don't
maybe
settle into it.
no, not at all. No, it was completely exhilarating, but I actually left after quite a short. Seeing a couple of the fast guys through, I thought, no,
It's mad.
yeah,
It's mad. But there's loads of good places like that. But I used to like to go to places as well where I'd pack all my stuff up,
yeah,
get my sandwiches, my radio, whatever
Yeah.
I've got, my flask.
yeah,
And I mean, you used to do it for early morning practice as well when I was
Oh,
a kid. I
right,
used to love it. But I'd go somewhere
Yeah.
where it was just me.
yeah. Okay,
Like,
yeah,
I'd
yeah,
go with
yeah.
my brother a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
So it'd just be the two of us.
yeah,
And on a race day, that was special because
Yeah.
there'd be a point where you knew that everyone around the course
yeah.
was listening and thinking about, let's say, John McGuinness leading
Oh,
the
yeah,
race.
yeah, yeah,
Everyone was thinking about it because we
Yeah.
were all watching it.
yeah,
And for 2 or 3 seconds,
yeah,
there's only me
yeah.
and John and my
Oh,
brother
okay, yeah.
who can see each other,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, on the whole
yeah.
planet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or maybe
yeah.
they'll Marshall as well.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
when you're like somewhere really busy,
yeah,
you feel like you're just joining in with everybody
yeah,
else.
yeah, yeah,
There's something special about seeing somebody in isolation
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
TT course.
yeah,
I used to
yeah,
really enjoy that.
yeah. Have you ever been to Armoy?
No.
You should go and spectate there.
Yeah.
When you get up the top and
Yeah.
I mean the TT course obviously, but Armoy, Davy Todd over those jumps at
Yeah.
the top that's really is again. I went there with my brother, funnily
Yeah.
enough, and we watched a race there, and then we saw a guy unfortunately fell off there, and then watched another race. And I said to my brother, "That's it." I just
Yeah.
hadn't. I
It's,
don't know.
it's strange though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like seeing it from the side is worse
Yeah.
than being on the bike sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
One, IOM TT Stew. Hi
Right.
Jim, what's your best memory of being a TM and
God,
or
wow.
best part of a TT fortnight?
Oh gosh.
That's quite a
Wow.
open question. That.
Yeah, what a question. My
Hard
best,
to pick one, I think.
yeah. That's a really tough question. So many different ways in which you could answer
Yeah,
that.
that's it. Yeah.
Best moment as a TM. I got some great memories of people like Joey Dunlop pulling in at the end of Sulby Straight to
Yeah.
make adjustments to the suspension, and that was always great. When my son Jack was riding, that's quite a tricky one, you can imagine, because
Yeah.
you're trying to. We had a question a few minutes ago about watching the race.
Yeah.
Who's leading the race?
Yeah.
And when your son's competing in it,
You're
watching the
all-
race, you're doing your
Yeah.
marshalling, you're thinking about Jack
Yeah.
in there. So to see him riding, somebody took a fantastic photograph. And that's going to be it. Yeah, that's got to be it.
Right.
Somebody took a photograph of Jack and myself when Jack was in the newcomers race in 2014
Yeah.
in the build-up. The guy's name was Paul Sulby. He's the
Right.
photographer. And he took a photograph of Jack and I going around the bungalow in practice. He's on his
Yeah.
little Kawasaki 650 Super Twin, and I'm just in front of him on one of the R1 Yamahas,
Right.
and it got us both there in the same
Right.
frame. And
Have you got it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you've got it all framed and everything.
I got it framed,
Yeah, yeah,
and my parents got it framed.
Right, okay.
It's like everywhere. That probably, I guess, would have to be my favourite marshalling
That's a
TT
good
moment.
one. Good
Yeah.
one. I'll let you have
Yeah.
that one, Jim. And
I bet you wasn't expecting that.
I didn't know it. I didn't know. Didn't know anything. And or the best part of the TT fortnight.
Again, there's so many different ways to answer it. It's just
Yeah.
so exciting at the start.
Yeah. yeah.
I love those moments when us lot meet up at the start.
Yeah.
You know, when we sat on the pit wall and there's
Yeah.
like, I don't know, 20 minutes to go and
Yeah, I like
having a
that.
little chat. I love those.
Yeah.
And it's relatively quiet.
Yeah.
You know there's going to be nothing to do, so you can relax and have a little
But the
catch
anticipation
up.
as well. of what's
Anticipation,
coming.
yeah.
We'll talk about the race
Yeah,
that's coming,
yeah,
won't we? And,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that last lap. Like
Yeah,
this year's
it's
TT, after the last race when we all came back together. That was so much fun.
I know.
And we should try and do that at the end of every event, because when
Yeah.
you see people staying waving at you, and
Yeah.
it's not the waving so much, it's just the
It's an acknowledgement.
appreciation
Yeah. Yeah.
and acknowledgement of, and that's I really love that. I love getting back to having a
it.
beer together, having a beer tent, and that.
But
and
also,
having
it's
a drink.
like it's really sad as well because it's the end.
That's true. Yeah.
But if there's no end,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you can't appreciate what
No.
it is. So it's like
Yeah.
everything, isn't it?
Well,
If it went on
it's, you know,
forever,
that's true.
yeah.
But after the Grand Prix, last lap, you know,
Yeah.
after the senior race or classic superbike, whichever's the last race, and that's a real end.
Yeah.
Because that is like, when you finish the TT, I think I got the Southern, I got the Grand
Yeah.
Prix.
Yeah.
After the Grand Prix, that's it. It's winter starts here.
Yeah, give the bikes
Yes.
back and
Unless you're going to Mexico.
let's go to Mexico. Yeah. Stephen Gate, don't know if you know
Right.
this. Hi Jim.
Right.
Which modern day racer in any championship would you like to see take on the TT?
Yeah. Well, it's good, got to be still competing, obviously.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Any current racer, short circuit racer
yeah,
now, would you like
okay.
to see at TT?
Who's the guy who recently won a MotoGP race and he had his helmet painted up as a replica to Mike Hailwood? It was at Silverstone, because at Silverstone recently, didn't they have all the bikes painted up in the retro colours?
Yeah.
And the a guy that won it, and I should know his name, one of the Works Ducati riders, he had his helmet painted.
Oh right. Okay.
He had his helmet painted up
Yeah.
in Mike Hailwood replica colours.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a connection there with, and so you think, yeah, maybe somebody like that.
Yeah.
I can't really think of somebody that because I've been to a couple of MotoGPs recently,
Yeah.
and it's really quite difficult to pick out a rider that you would think would make a really, really
Yeah,
good-
it's like
good road
when I think of
racer.
MotoGP riders, it seems so far removed from the TT now.
Yeah, it's difficult to
That
make
I
a
don't
judgment.
I know they know what it is because
Yeah.
if you saw any of that track day they did at Silverstone for all the monster riders,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
had, Michael was there,
Yeah,
Hickey,
yeah,
John,
yeah,
but then
yeah.
you had like Bagnaia,
yeah. What I couldn't get my head
Locatelli,
around.
Johnny Ray, they
Yeah.
were all there.
I couldn't get my head around the fact that apparently John McGuinness went out with Valentino
Yeah,
on his Superstock bike
Yeah.
and knocked 2 seconds off
that's
his.
his personal best.
2 seconds is
I know
like
it's a lot.
that's a huge
Yeah.
chunk of time. Somebody with John's experience,
Yeah, I know.
just through riding it, you think, wow, how on earth? What's Valley able to show John
I know.
that can knock that
Yeah.
huge chunk of time off?
I know.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I thought that.
Yeah,
There's so like the MotoGP riders, I think it seems such a polished, perfect world now.
yeah.
And like not
Yeah.
that the TT isn't, but
Yeah.
it's just so different.
Oh yeah,
But I think Lee Johnson spoke about it on one of the podcasts he did with TT.
yes,
And she like Josh Herron, who rides in America,
right, yeah,
and he does a lot of street riding,
yes,
like promotional work.
yeah.
So he'll
okay.
be on a street bike
Yes,
on a road up in the mountains, up
Yeah,
somewhere in
yeah.
California,
yeah,
and he's doing like almost looks like trick riding, like
Yeah,
backing
yeah.
into everywhere,
Okay,
like
yeah.
just massive slides coming out, but
Yeah,
like
yes.
all on the road. So he's obviously
Yes.
got this, and he's a huge star in America.
yeah.
And there's a massive American audience now as well
Yeah,
who attach to the TT, but they haven't
Yeah.
got an American to sort of cheer for.
Okay, yeah.
And I think someone like him
yes,
would bring so many eyes to us. Not
Yeah,
that
yeah,
like
yeah.
we necessarily need it.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
people are going to think it's a bad idea because it's
Yeah.
like you're attracting the wrong kind of
Yeah,
people. But
yeah.
I think for him, who's got such a natural ability on a motorbike,
yeah,
on the roads,
yeah,
from
yeah.
what I've seen.
Yeah.
But apparently Lee spoke to him about it and he's not
Yeah,
interested.
Right.
He's just
No,
like,
no.
I like
Okay.
messing around on a bike on the
Yeah,
roads, but
yes.
I don't want to race.
Yeah.
I don't want to push to the limit.
Yes,
But for me, I think he'd be the one I'd want to
Yeah.
see come here and do
Yeah.
it. I think he'd be great. Right, next question. This is from Jay Hatton, I'm going to say. So where's Jim's favourite point to Marshall?
okay. Well, I like Ballacrane, also known as Ballacake. Great hospital. Well, all the marshalling points are great hospitality.
Yeah.
Ballacrane it's not my favourite vantage spot,
No.
but it's because it's a pretty straightforward right-hander. But the hospitality is great. Douglas Road Corner, really interesting.
Yeah.
A sequence of not sequence of bends, but the exit I think
Yeah.
is one of those parts where you can really pick out the good riders. Salisbury Bridge, yeah, fantastic.
Just say them all.
Say them all. Parliament Square I love going to Parliament Square at lunchtime.
Yeah. It's handy.
The cafe there is really nice, and it's just talking about people backing into the court. I was astonished. I hadn't been to Parliament Square for the whole of TT week until the last race of TT week, and it was like, whoa, the speed of the bikes coming into the square. Michael backing it in, that's so spectacular.
It's good.
This is like a must see,
I
and we're
think-
quite lucky there where we stand
Yeah.
because if you're a spectator, you can either see the exit or the entrance.
Yeah.
You can't see both.
Yeah.
But if you stand in that particular spot, so
Yeah,
as a
it's a good
marshal,
spot.
you can see the entrance and exit to the corner.
It's
Fantastic.
a good place
Yeah.
to go. So, like, I think, in terms of a place to watch, I like the Gooseneck.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Because I just love the
Oh,
way
yeah,
they come
yeah,
and
yeah.
go out and they're
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
and they set off on this massive mission across the mountain.
yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, it's got good facilities and everything.
Yeah,
and you've
yes.
got a loudspeaker.
Yeah.
Just for me, I like to listen to the commentary.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like when you're at Douglas Road Corner, sometimes you feel a little bit detached from it.
Yeah,
Because
okay,
you
yeah,
don't have the
yeah,
radio.
yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, they're all good. But
Yeah. Don't forget Julian Bowers at Brandywell.
yeah, Brandywell. I'd like Brandywell. I've spoken about this before. But Brandywell's like quite a
Yeah.
special place for me. It's
Yeah.
like the first place I marshalled from,
Okay.
and where
Yes.
I had my first instant as well.
Oh right, interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you never
always-
forget the first one.
No, you don't. Right, next question is from Jacob Field. What is the fastest speed you've clocked as a TM? I think they mean like what's the biggest number you've seen on your clocks.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think because we don't really get to time our laps, do we?
No.
And a lot of time we don't do a lap.
Yeah. I remember, as you know, I'm a retired school teacher,
Yeah.
but I get asked that question a lot in school about
Do you?
how fast you go on your
Yeah,
bike.
yeah.
And Motorcycle News did an app that you could put on your phone
Right. Okay.
a little while ago.
Yeah.
So I put it on my phone, and it used to record your top speed.
Yeah.
And at the end of your ride, this is your ride,
Yeah.
you've done so many miles,
Yeah.
and this is your top speed, whatever. And yeah, I got a reasonable top speed on that, which was 186 down Sulby
Yeah.
Straight. Whether or not that's a true speed or not, I don't know.
That should be pretty
But-
accurate then,
but
because
that's actually what it said.
that's what the bikes
Yeah.
are limited to.
Oh, is it?
So they
Right.
have what they like Honda. It comes from them like from brand new,
Yeah.
and they're capped at 300 kilometers an hour,
Oh, interesting.
which
I
is
didn't know that.
186 miles an hour.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that. I
Yeah.
didn't realise that.
Mm. So like,
Perhaps it was that. Yeah. Perhaps it was that speed.
ties
then,
ties in.
Yeah.
So yeah, and
Mm.
like it surprises me how many places
Yeah.
you'll get that bike up to. Well, technically it's top speed. Like Ballahutchin, it'll do it up there when it'll
Yeah.
down through Crosby. And then,
Maybe for you, not for me.
but it's so many places. The bikes are so fast now, aren't they?
Yeah.
They just
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
throw gears at them
Yeah.
and they just go so quick.
Down the southern as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you really get the impression of speed down there.
Yeah. Well,
Darren was saying that he saw around 185 on his
did he?
at the end of the start-finish straight.
Yeah.
And you get around the back down below and dip and all that's something else through there. So, yeah.
Yeah. I watched that and I think that looks great, but I'm quite happy to not do it. Like it looks scary to me.
Exactly the same.
Looks scary.
I don't. When I'm on duty down there, I'm riding around behind the
Yeah.
bikes on the first lap, and I'm thinking I'm maybe 50 meters, 100 meters behind
Yeah.
the last man, but you can see what's going on. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm glad I'm sat here, not in the middle of that lot.
Yeah. Good luck, boys.
Yeah.
So from Andy Harder, great blog again, always interesting. Is there a time or place where we can meet the TMs when we come over for the Manx Grand Prix this year?
Oh, nice question.
So like officially there isn't, is there?
No,
But on race days, you'll tend to find 2 or 3 of us at the grandstand, like maybe like half an hour to an hour before the session starts.
Yeah.
And if you're there, you'll be in the Hillwood Centre.
Yeah.
And we'll be somewhere around that area, won't we, normally?
Yeah, always.
And-
or afterwards in the...
And
Because the
afterwards,
beer tent's back, isn't it?
beer tent's
The
back,
beer tent's
yeah.
back, so
Yeah.
hopefully we'll be in there. And, yeah, it's really always nice for people to come say hello.
Yeah, like so most evenings, like some of the guys who finish off up north obviously finish up north and
Yeah.
they'll stay there because
Yeah,
there's no point. But
Yeah.
there'll be always like 3, 4, 5
Yeah,
of us back in
yeah,
the grandstand.
yeah.
And we normally go for a drink after, don't we? So
Yeah.
And-
And in the Manx Grand Prix Supporters Club tent,
yeah. Have a cup of
which
tea
is
now.
immediately behind the grandstand again. You've got
Yeah.
the beer tent, Manx Grand Prix Supporters Club tent.
Yeah.
So either one of those two places. It's always nice to support the sports club.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like if
Yeah.
any of you come down and see after the session's finished on a practice night, and we'll be in the tent having a cup of tea, and then we'll guaranteed we'll be in the beer tent after the last race day, and we'll see any of you
Yeah.
there. But like if you ever see us around and you want to come up and have a chat, just like
Yeah, please do.
never think
Yeah.
you can't or you
No,
shouldn't
no,
do. Just
no.
come up and say hello.
Yeah.
So this is a really interesting one coming from Ian Roberts. Don't know.
Right.
It could be anybody. Jim.
Yeah.
Have any travelling marshals ever had to attend the crash of another travelling marshal?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
that you
yeah,
have.
yeah,
Like, it's
yeah,
never
yeah.
happened, and touch wood,
Yeah.
like it won't. But
Yeah.
since I've been doing it, we've not
Yeah.
had any incidents like that.
Yeah.
But I know that obviously 32 years
Yeah.
here of
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah,
So maybe
no,
you could talk us through a couple.
Okay, I'm not going to mention any names,
Okay.
but I'm going to
Incriminating.
mention. No, but there was one session a number of years ago. It was a practice session, and the session had finished, so we were all riding in. Not together as a big group, but
Yeah.
we were reasonably close together.
Yeah.
And I came out the Cregner Bar as per normal, approached Brandish as per normal, and then there's a huge commotion.
Right.
And I mentioned this name, Ian McVitie.
Yeah.
Ian was marshalling at the time. He was a little bit, he got there a couple of seconds before me, and he was pulled up before the corner, and I pulled up and said, "What's going on?" I'll never forget his words. He said, "It's two of us,"
Right.
is what he said. And the two guys had, I think there was some oil on the road or something, and come off on some oil from a sidecar. And yeah, that was a pretty big accident.
Yeah.
Not life-threatening injuries for one of the people involved, but there's certainly a helicopter ride involved in
Right.
it. Yeah, certainly, yeah.
And was it like,
It's a big crash.
was it a lot stranger going to somebody? And because
I
I mean, you know, pretty much you know everybody at the TT anyway, but you know
Yeah.
them not like we know each other.
Yeah, we go. You're not. The other interesting thing about that is when you sat at a corner and you get a radio message to attend an incident. As soon as you got that message, you're starting to process about where it is.
You know where you go in.
Where's the helicopter going to land? Where am I going to park?
Yeah.
What's the likely outcome going to be? If it's one of us guys involved in the accident, on a ride back in or whatever, you're not expecting it.
No.
You know, and
Yeah,
me coming down to
the
the Craig there, you know, I'm thinking, okay, how many sugars am I having in my tea when I get to the Hayward Centre? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I've got my mind on the job,
Yeah,
but I'm not
but
thinking,
it's the end of the
okay,
day.
I'm arriving at an incident at Brandish.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're not expecting it,
Yeah.
and that puts a slightly different complexity to it.
You had no
because
time to think.
You know,
of it in your mind,
that's
have you?
right. Yeah, you know the
Yeah.
people, and yeah, I'm thinking now Paul Hunt. You know, that's just when Paul had his accident. That was and we didn't even get practice session. It was just bad weather.
Yeah. Just riding back over the mountain.
Yeah, that's tough. Really tough.
Yeah, it's a hard one. That.
Yeah, really tough. Yeah, Chris Varga.
Yeah, Chris. I mean,
83rd.
Yeah, like
they're
Chris
all
is-
big accidents. John McBride, Keppelgate.
yeah. Like, did you listen?
Yeah,
Did you
yeah.
hear John's?
I didn't know.
Change to a Dream. It's
No,
good that
no, yeah.
he talks about that and how that
Yeah.
all went through. And it's like
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
realise how injured he was from that.
Oh, it's a big,
Like obviously when we
Big,
see him now, you can still tell
Yeah.
he suffers from the injuries
Yeah,
from that
yeah.
crash.
Yeah,
But I didn't
yeah.
realise how many
No,
injuries
it's
he had.
huge accident.
Because he says that he
Yeah.
goes, I remember sort of being there
Yes.
and getting loaded up,
Yeah.
and then the next I remember is 2 weeks later in the hospital.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah,
serious,
Yeah.
that, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah.
But like Chris coming off is part of the reason why I'm involved now, because
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Chris crashed TT 2016
Yes.
and Ian
Yeah.
finished in 2016
Right. Okay.
at TT.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
after TT, Tony was down 2 men for the Grand Prix,
Right.
and that's when he asked. And I was having
Oh,
that year
okay.
off. I wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
racing.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Ian said, "Why don't you give Woody a shout?"
Yeah.
And he asked me, and I was like,
Yeah. Well, you know what they say.
But
Every
filled in. "Yeah, you just-
every
yeah.
cloud has a silver
You
lining,
don't know.
and I guess the silver lining is getting you in, and at that point, so yeah.
So, obviously, I've been planning on having Jim in for the last couple of weeks,
Mm.
and I was speaking to a couple of people who I know today, and they were like, "What are you up to tonight?" And I was like, "Oh, Jim's coming
Yeah,
around to do
yeah.
the questions." He says, "I've
Yeah.
got a question for Jim." So this one comes. So this is a guy who used to mechanic on some of my bikes.
Oh yes.
He's done a lot of work on this one and
Right,
that
yeah,
one, and he
yeah.
used to prep some of my race bikes and
Right,
stuff. And I saw
yeah.
him today,
Yeah.
and he wants to know what's the best race you've ever witnessed as a travel marshal.
As a travel marshal,
Yeah.
gosh, you know, such good questions.
Yeah, that's tough, that one.
Wow, yeah, such good questions. Wow,
Or if you want to expand it and just say best race you've ever seen.
when the Carl Fogarty, Steve Hislop.
92.
I wasn't Travis Marshall at that point, but
Almost, though.
almost, yeah, almost. I was at Keppelgate for that race,
Right.
and it was just such an exciting event, and they were both riding way and beyond.
Yeah.
It's just unreal
Yeah.
the way they were riding those bikes.
Yeah.
And I was stood on the exit to Keppelgate, and their commitment going into Kate's Cottage, unbelievable. But the one that got me after that, I think Robert Dunlop came third in that race,
Right.
and it's what Robert said afterwards. And Robert's fantastic. I don't know how many TTs Robert Dunlop won, but he just looked up to those guys, and he said those two are something special on this course. And to get that accolade from somebody of Robert's ability, you think, wow, that's something else. But the other part of that story is, you might not remember a rider called Trevor Nation.
Oh, yeah.
I think he bought the bike, apparently, I hope I didn't get this part of the story wrong, he bought the bike that Carl Fogarty did that 124 mile an hour lap on.
On that Yamaha?
Yeah, and he rode it the following year.
Right.
And I remember the quote I remember reading about Trevor Nation saying was, I always thought Carl Fogarty was a great rider. Yeah. But now, having ridden the bike that he did that speed on, that's like unbelievable.
I suppose that's the only way to really find out, isn't it?
Yeah. But Ian Locker on the 250, that's another milestone when Locker beat Hizzy on 1990, did a 117 on that 250. Then that's just like these are things that are, superhuman moments. Yeah. I think that's and I saw a great picture of Locker in that particular race coming up out of Lamfell. Yeah. And it's one of my favourite TT photographs of all time because he's right. You can't even see him. He's just so far into the fairing. But there's a farmer, an old Manx farmer, stood right on the crest of, and he's got his cap on and his old coat, and it's just the contrast between the old time guy and Locker on this 250 and doing this unbelievable speed of 117 on the 250. There's the two that stick in my mind.
There's like in the way everything is now, everyone's on the same bike, and everything's engineered, if you like, to have close racing. Yeah. And so you get loads of close races now. Yeah. Maybe not like in the last few years, it's spread out a little bit more, but there was loads of 600 races, wasn't there? Like when Hutchie and Michael and those boys were winning, they're all, and even like Cam Donald and Bruce. Yeah. They're winning races by 2 seconds. And if you think about it as a race, they were like the best racers. But for whatever reason, the significance of them hasn't stood the test of time. So no one goes, the 2012
that's a really good point, actually.
Super Sport 2 race that was won by half a second was the best race in history. Because it takes more than just being close racing to make it a memorable race. That's so a good point. The one that I remember sat on a hedge and at the top of Lamfell as well, coming onto Cronky just as they wheelie off. Yeah. And I was watching the was it 15 or 16? Do you remember that year when everyone wrote John McGuinness off? He's having a terrible... And then he went and beat Michael in the senior. Because there's something like the bookies had him at like 30 to 1 or something.
Yeah, I didn't give him a chance in that.
And he just turned up in that race.
Yeah, unbelievable. And
I was really I remember stood on that hedge. I was just so rooting for him to win.
Unbelievable.
And then the way Michael congratulated him after that, I tried everything there and he just turned up on the day. And John's like, don't doubt me. Don't forget. Just because I had one bad week and everyone writes you off forever. But that one sticks in my mind.
That was a great race. It doesn't happen so much anymore, but it used to happen a bit more often when you had riders starting in pairs. Yeah. You get 1 and 2 going off together, and then very occasionally you get 1 and 2 both in the leaderboard positions. So whoever gets to the line first is going to win it. Yeah. There's some great races with guys like Malcolm Wheeler and Gary Paget, and all coming down to the last couple of yards and.
Yeah, so technically they are better races, aren't they? Technically,
Bob Heath and Bill Swallow. Yeah, and there's another one in the Grand Prix as well. I can't remember the names of the two guys, but it was one of the closest finishes of all time. Apparently, it was like
I can sort of like picture it, but I can't remember. Yeah, was one of them on a bullet bike?
Because I read a book once by a guy called Charles Lambert, and he used to be the anchorman for Manx Radio. He was a guy off, he was off Northwest Tonight, sports correspondent, and he came over here and and he wrote a book about commentating the TT,
Right.
and that was one of the exact questions to him.
Yeah.
Best race you've ever seen on there. I think it was worded mountain course.
Yeah.
I was anticipating some TT response to the
Yeah,
question,
yeah.
but he said no. The best race I ever saw was that one at the Grand
Yeah,
Prix,
yeah.
and I have to find that guy's name because that's really bothering me now. I just can't think of it.
I know, and you'll say it and be like, yeah.
Yeah.
And the same guy asks, following to that, what's the best Marshalls bike you've ever got?
I think the blades is something else, aren't they? They really are, to be fair.
Like technically,
Yeah.
if you say it, it's like it's this year's blade, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the best motorbike.
I like the 2016 one for some reason. I don't know why.
TT
I like
edition.
it. Yeah, I don't know why I particularly like that one, but
It's the last of like the analog Fireblades, so wasn't it?
Right,
Before they
okay,
all
yeah.
went electronic suspension and
Yeah,
traction
yeah.
control.
Yeah,
All it had was like
yeah.
some really rudimental ABS.
Yeah,
It was a bit
Yeah,
crap.
yeah.
But the rest of it was.
yeah,
But for me, the thing about that bike was it was amazing. It looked amazing. It had all them little trick bits on it, that
Yeah.
little acro can,
Yeah,
and a
yeah.
Yoshimura tail tidy.
Yeah, yeah.
It was such a nice thing.
Yeah.
Like laser X levers, TT
Yeah.
edition,
Yeah,
Honda
yeah,
race.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And they only made 50, you know.
Did
50
they?
they made of that because that was the official TT edition.
Wow.
Chris Fargo wrote one off.
Yeah. Gosh.
Granger's got one now, you know.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Granger's got
Yeah.
one.
Right.
There's 50 of them.
Right.
Well, apparently,
I
I
didn't
think
realise
there's 40 odd left.
Okay.
But that's how rare they are.
Yeah.
But I remember that bike, and I'd never ridden 1,000.
Yes.
I just raced 600s,
Yeah,
and that was the
yeah.
first 1,000 I ever rode. And I
Yeah.
was like, because if you jump back now to 600, they feel
Yeah.
a bit like a toy, don't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
Thousands
Yeah.
are so quick. But
Yeah.
because it had no assists,
Yes.
and I was
Yeah.
setting off for the first time ever on
Yeah.
cold tyres,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I was going
yeah.
off at Balacrane and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, you boys must be mad. Like, how can you ride these things?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you're only riding 3 or 4 miles
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
go into like an instant
Yeah.
over
Yes.
position.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, how can you? But now
Yeah.
the bikes have got so many assists
Yeah. Yeah.
that they
yeah.
mask all that
Yeah,
cold
yeah,
tire issue,
yeah,
don't
yeah,
they?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they're amazing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people ask me, it's like, oh, what's the best bike? I was like, the one I've got now.
Yeah.
It's the latest one.
Yeah.
It's the best
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
But I didn't know
They
if you
are
were going to
beautiful.
say.
They are beautiful things.
I didn't know if you were going to
Yeah.
say the RC45.
That was what was that? 95 was it? I think it was 95. Was it 96? 96. I do apologise.
Or was it
Pretty
5?
sure.
Because Hizzy won in 94 on it. And
Is
then
he one in
they,
94?
and then they did the edition in 95. I think it was 95.
Yeah. Okay, 95.
I mean, I could be wrong.
No. But it was obviously a lovely bike. Aesthetically as well, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
To have to painted up in the World Superbike Castrol colours. But it wasn't quite what I anticipated it was going to be. It was a bit of a. It was.
Right.
It was. We were, up until that point, we were running VFR 750s, VFR 800s,
Yeah.
and it was better. But it just wasn't. I don't recall it
Thought it
being
was
that
gonna be-
much better.
Yeah.
It's a bit like when I got my 500 Yamaha V4.
Yeah.
I'd had all the RDs before, and the 500 was better than my 350 power bar, but it wasn't that.
Yeah,
It wasn't as good as I was
expected a
hoping.
bigger
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And going on to the last one,
Yeah.
and this comes from one of our ex-travel marshals who
Yeah, yeah.
I see every day because I work next to him. But Ian McVitie just
Yeah.
asks simply,
Yeah.
what's your best traveller marshal memory?
Yeah.
And I suppose technically we've covered that
Yeah.
with your story about
Yeah.
riding with Jack.
Yeah.
But anything else that...
Yeah, the Jack one was special, but of course what year did Valentino come over? What year was that?
2009,
2009.
I think?
That was. I mean, he was at the height of
Yeah,
his popularity there.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
To have the opportunity to ride the lap behind Valentino
Yeah.
and Agostini, of course.
And that goes...
That was really something else. I got a couple of things that Valentino had just started doing his doctor's dangle.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, and everybody does it now, but it was only him doing it at the time.
Yeah.
And we all had this agreement that when we came down into the quarter bridge, we would all do the doctor's dangle. And that's a really daft memory, but it's something that I
Shame
do
you haven't got a
recall.
photo of that, isn't it?
Yeah, that was so funny. I was absolutely killing myself in Sandwich Crash Shop. I was seeing everyone dangling their foots coming down to the quarter
Yeah.
bridge. Sadly, there's not many spectators on the approach to the quarter bridge, so I don't think anybody saw it. So in that respect, it was a wasted effort. But then I also remember about that lap is that Valentino was sort of going through the motions, but there was an MCN tester on that lap as well, running with Agostini and Rossi.
Right.
And they must have had some sort of agreement because Valentino obviously wanted to know when he was approaching Ballath Bridge.
Right. Okay.
So we've come through Bishop's Court, we're coming through Alpine, and we get to Ballacob, and you can see the MCN guy sort of moves to one side, and he points to Valet.
Right.
He's obviously indicating we're approaching the bridge.
Yeah.
So, and there's quite a lot of pictures taken of Valentino doing a reasonably sized jump at the bridge. But there's a bit of background to that, and that is that, okay, it was a good jump anyway, but he knew he got the set up to, so, but that was to see all the people out on the course.
Yeah.
That was really wonderful.
Yeah, I've heard that. Like, I can imagine like doing it now with like Bagnaia or Marquez
yeah. And which will be amazing, but it was just the fact that the MotoGP was on BBC, and he was such a mega world
household
star,
name as well. You see, if you walk down the street now and say Pecco Bagnaia, most people don't know who you're talking about. Double MotoGP world champion. Yeah. Like, Pecco what?
That's right. Yeah.
But everyone knows Rossi, doesn't they?
Yeah.
That's pretty much all the questions that we've had specifically for Jim about this. So that's that wrapped up. If you've got any more that you want to know, fire them down, and we'll probably just do another one of these. If you're interested and want to hear more about it, then we'll make it. And that wraps up the questions. So thanks for watching.